Hello, it's Cecilia again. This video will focus on what is often called style sheets and how to use them in an effective way. The aim of the style sheet is to ensure consistency in texts produced within a certain context. This means that in our context, the style sheet outlines the requirements that your teacher or department poses on your writing. In the same way, if you write for a journal or a publishing house, they will also have style sheets outlining their preferred style. The main function of the style sheet is to neutralize the presentation of the text, to make sure that the way in which it is packaged doesn't distract the reader's attention from the argument that the writer is trying to convey. The style sheet is also an instructional text that will help you write your essay. Here, I'd like to point out that in university courses, style sheets are not standalone documents, but are often directly linked with the grading criteria, so making sure your text follows the guidelines will help you towards success. So what information can you expect to find in an essay style sheet? Well, first of all, it will usually say something about format, expected length of your text, layout, structure, and reference style. Much of this information is essential already before you start writing, as you can save time by planning and designing your text according to the required format from the start. In other words, it's a good idea to set your document to the expected type font and font size, and to check if you need to indent your paragraphs or if you should leave a blank line in between them. The style sheet will also tell you about line spacing and margins, and if you should use full justification or flush left in your text. Furthermore, it will stipulate what kinds of section headings to use and how to format them. For instance, should you capitalize the headings, and do they need to be numbered? And if so, what format should you use? The style sheet might also tell you if explanatory footnotes or endnotes can be used, and if so, what kind of information they should contain and how to format them. Depending on discipline, a style sheet will also tell you about figures and figure captions, as well as what kinds of type styles to use. It's worth pointing out here that although different type styles are used quite freely in informal writing to emphasize words or passages, in a formal academic style, emphasis is conveyed by sentence structure rather than by capital letters or boldface. Another thing you often find in style sheets is how to use certain pronouns. For example, it may tell you to use gender-inclusive language and avoid the use of he as a generic pronoun. A style sheet may also regulate the use of I and we in the text. Some style sheets will tell you to use them when you refer to yourself, the author, whereas others will tell you to use alternative expressions. All the things I have listed are important to be aware of before you start writing, but the style sheet will also help you at a later stage, because when you come to the revision stage, you can use it as a checklist. Going through all the items of the style sheet again, you can check that you have punctuated the entire document according to instruction, that all headings are formatted correctly, that margins look okay, and that there are no missing indentations, for instance. As you see, a style sheet is very much a kind of writer's manual, and using it should be rather straightforward. However, there are some potential stumbling blocks that you need to watch out for, and they don't necessarily have to do with the particular information stated in the style sheet, but rather with the knowledge and understanding of certain concepts that is needed in order to interpret the style sheet correctly. This is the case when it comes to discipline-specific considerations. Although writing is a transferable skill in the sense that much of what you learn about writing in one context or discipline will be useful as you write in other contexts. For instance, if you transfer from one university department to another, there will be differences in requirements and in usage. This means that, as a writer, you need to identify the discipline-specific requirements that are common in the new discipline. Text structure and reference style are often discipline-specific, and also preferences regarding the use of pronouns and the use of passive or active constructions. The style sheet will give information on what reference style to use, and it will probably present examples from the required reference style or direct you to a manual or online resource of that reference style. One thing that might pose a challenge here is recognizing what kind of source you are using, as that will decide how you refer to it, both in your text and in your bibliography. For instance, is the source you are using an article from a scholarly journal, or is it a chapter from an anthology? Text-wise, they may look pretty much the same, but to get your references right, you must know what type of source you are using, as the required data for different types of sources will differ. To sum up, using a style sheet requires certain skills. For non-native writers, in particular, some of the terminology might be new. We therefore suggest that you look up new words you encounter in the style sheet so that you know exactly what you are expected to do. Remember that if you follow the style sheet, it will be easier for you to convey your argument to the reader, and your text will stand a better chance when it is being assessed.